The 29th of November is the United Nations Day of Solidarity with Palestinians. I'm Linda Rose and I'm the chairwoman of Sunfo International Children's Wing. Sunfo is a non-political, non-racial and non-sectarian organisation focusing on the Sustainable Development Goals and how we can all live in a better, more just and peaceful world. And I welcome you to our conference on the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, a case study on how life under occupation affects those in the occupied territories of Palestine. We now look together at Goal 13, 14 and 15. That's climate action, life below water and life on land. And we're delighted to invite Professor Dr. Mazin Qumsiyeh, who is a scientist and an author, founder and director of the Palestine Museum of Natural History, as well as the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability at Bethlehem University, where he teaches. Welcome, Professor Dr. Mazin.
Thank you. I hope everybody can see the presentation. I'm going to try to go quick and combine the three SDG goals, the climate action, life in water, and life on land. Palestine is part of the Fertile Crescent where humans first developed agriculture, where we first domesticated plants and animals, of course. That's why it has also one of the oldest civilizations in history. This is the cradle of civilization, if you want, is the Fertile Crescent, because of that early domestication of plants and animals taken from the rich fauna and flora of the country. And people have lived in relative harmony with nature without too much impact on the environment for thousands of years, until, of course, we have the Zionist project, which I won't go into the politics of it, but they created the Jewish state on top of Palestine, ethnically cleansing 530 Palestinian villages and towns. And the ethnic cleansing continues, as is happening now in Gaza. This is a typical colonial mentality, the shrinking map of Palestine. Actually, some of you may have seen it before. It was actually inspired by the shrinking map of the US. When my son, who was then in middle school in the US, saw the shrinking map of the US and then drew the map on the top, and people have been using it as shrinking land that's left for Palestinians. And it's not enough, by the way, it continues. This 1998 map and today's map will continue to shrink as Israel expands. And there was a plan to remove the people of Gaza into the Sinai, and that plan is still there. Israel just chooses the right moments. They've driven half the population of Gaza from the north to the south in preparation for pushing them into the Sinai. This is settler colonialism, and settler colonialism has a lot of impact on the environment and on sustainability. And I'll try to be very brief, but for example, the uprooting of trees that was mentioned by Linda, they uprooted actually over 2 million fruiting trees, olives, figs, and almonds from the West Bank alone. And that's not counting the millions others that they uprooted when they created the State of Israel in 1948. And what they did, they uprooted these diverse trees and they planted, instead of them, pine trees, a monoculture, which is susceptible to fires, as you see here in West Jerusalem, when the fire actually consumed the pine trees that Israelis planted after they uprooted our trees. These fires actually exposed the ridges, the terraces that Palestinians have built over thousands of years. There is the diversion of the water of the Jordan River basin from Lake Tiberias to the west that dried up the Jordan River, so it's no longer a river. Actually went down from 1,350 million cubic meters to 20 million cubic meters per year. It's now barely a stream. You can see what it looked like before and after. There was the drainage of the Lake Hula and the wetlands of the Hula area. And you can see Palestinian women there and harvesting reeds in Lake Hula before 1948. There is a continuing destruction of our land by military activities. I'm actually writing a paper now on the impact of war on the environment. And this is an interesting subject, very, very diverse. I don't have too much time to go into it. I'll just give a couple of examples. This is in the South Hebron Hills, where Israel declared both a nature reserve, and on top of it, the green is the nature reserve, and on top of it, the red is the military training zone. And they arrest Palestinians for picking even wild oregano, za'atar in the wilderness, while they do military training in the South Hebron Hills, and they want the people out, and they've already depopulated, just since October 7, by the way, 22 communities were removed in the West Bank, were made refugees, again, some of them. The military activities, of course, I could speak about white phosphorus and its impact on biodiversity and nature, or depleted uranium. What Israel dropped on Gaza is 40,000 tons of ammunition supplied by the US, thanks to taxpayer money in the US. Free munition replacement for anything they need. This year, Israel will get from the US more than what any US citizen gets per capita. You know, Israeli citizens get more. There's the industrial settlements and their impact on nature and on human health. And some of my students do this kind of research. This is Jabal Abu Ghneim, just here in Bethlehem. I'm speaking to you from Bethlehem. And we wrote papers about the decline in vertebrate biodiversity thanks to Israeli colonial activities like what you see here, where they took Jabal Abu Ghneim and they made it a Jewish-only colony called Har Homa. The destruction continues daily, you know, of our plants and trees. In terms of natural resources, Israel took up most of our water, as mentioned by Linda, and others. Most of our land, most of our habitats are under Israeli control. We are kept in these Bantustans, ghettos. I don't like the way, to call them open-air prisons, because we're not guilty of anything. These are warehouses for people. Like I'm in a warehouse called Bethlehem Warehouse. It's a concentration camp, basically, to store unwanted people. And Gaza is such a concentration camp. Now, why Gaza? Because of these gas fields off of Gaza. And as I mentioned, 40,000 tons of munitions dropped on Gaza. Sewage treatment facilities were bombed in the past, electric power plants, etc. Gaza actually dumps its sewage into the Mediterranean, and now there is no sewage, even pipes to dump into the Mediterranean. So the sewage is piling up in the population of Gaza, thanks to the carpet bombing that you probably saw the pictures of some of these. There's also a healthcare crisis in Gaza, as you know. People are living in very crowded areas. Diseases are already spreading, and not only living in very crowded areas, but they don't have food or water or, water. They are collecting rainwater now, dirty water. Many of them have stomach illness and diseases from dirty water. There's been a displacement of about 1.5 million people, ethnic cleansing round two, if you want, after 1948. I like this picture of Gaza people saving their cats from the rubble. But there is a global movement, as you know, that's growing and that is mobilizing, and we are part of it. We will never give up like this frog because it's an existential struggle for us. We are in an institute called the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability, which did some work in Gaza with the Rotary Club before with women and children in Gaza, and we're working with the refugee camps here in Bethlehem. We have a community garden, we have a botanic garden, we have a museum of natural history. This is from our botanic garden. We have aquaponic systems. Israel, by the way, comes into Bethlehem regularly, arresting people. They arrested many friends of ours in the past few days, nights. They torture them in prison. Israel is rounding up more and more children because they think that that's a way to exchange prisoners or whatever, and torturing them. But they had, over 300 children in Israeli prisons before October 7 events. These are just some of our activities that we do here with volunteers and staff, with the children, with the women, for example, selling their products. We worked on the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan for Palestine. And this is our website. If you want to reach out to us, we're happy to network with you and provide you more information. I will summarize on 3 quick points, if I may. That the environmental impact on land, water, all of these things is so devastating. We wrote about 20 research papers on this subject, and now I'm working on a book on the subject. The book already has 450 references, and 650 references, and it will probably be 1,000 references by the time it's finished on the environmental impact of Zionism in our country, of colonialism in our country. And we hope that this nightmare ends and that we can, but I'm not sure we will succeed in repairing some of the damage that has already been done on all these aspects. The state of Palestine is now recognized by some 120 countries and joined international treaties, including Climate Change Treaty, the Convention on Biological Diversity, and others. And we work now to hold Israel accountable under these treaties, and hopefully we can. I'm happy if you go on the website that I shared, info@palestinenature.org. Or palestinenature.org, you can find some of our research and some of our data about the environmental situation. Thank you very much for listening, and I really was impressed by the previous speakers. So we should do more like this, issues about sustainability and life under occupation, where we can talk at longer time. Thanks.